What's the problem today with QA as we look across auto QA and manual QA? Many of these auto QA tools that you see in the market, they're only scoring interactions and they can score 100% of interactions, but all you're getting are scores. With manual QA, you're able to really get in and coach someone, but you can't scale that, right? You're still with manual QA, you're able to hit maybe 2 or 3% of your cases at best. So, what do these things add up to? Your agents are getting poor feedback, and ultimately it's CX that suffers, right? Because the team isn't getting the development that they need to really provide better CX. So QA is a real problem across enterprise support. So I want to touch on a few stories that we hear about when we talk to folks that are dealing with this. The first one is this that we hear sometimes is that they got a score, they got a good QA score, but an escalation still happened, or the customer still churned. We see this all the time when we talk to folks. The next thing that we hear about from folks is that they had a manual QA tool and an auto QA tool, and maybe a QA tool for their voice conversations, maybe one that's handling their chatbot support. And every one of them had a different definition of how the customer was being supported. This is a common thing that we hear. Here's another one. Many teams deal with this. We wanted to install more generative AI, more AI into our process, into our coaching and our QA process. But with a lot of options, it was all AI or no AI, almost like an old ship where you have to repair the sails. Maybe you've got to plug something on the outside. You can't afford a new ship, so you end up doing nothing to the ship, is very much what this scenario feels like. And this last one comes from the point of view of the support engineers, the people on the front line dealing with the hardest cases every day. They want to improve, they want to get better at support. They get a bad score and they don't know what that score means, right? They get an automated score or they don't get the coaching frequency that they need. And they're starting to burn out and they're not getting that frequency. And that burnout is a real thing among agents, right? And we can see these reasons for it. Uthayya, this is something that you are so familiar with, this burnout situation amongst teams. Can you tell me more about this flow?
Absolutely. I think the where it all really stems from is the sheer lack of time that everybody in this industry has. It could be an engineer who's having to resolve, let's say, 15 cases a day, or it could be a support manager or a QA auditor that has to audit not just for one agent, but for all 10 that are under him or her, where the volumes just pile up. So, in terms of problem number one is just sheer volumes and not enough time in the day. So when that just continues to pile up, as you said, the first and the biggest problem we see is effectively churn and attrition, right?
Absolutely. So now diving in. So how do we fix this, right? This is where we start, where you can really only grow a team. You can really only protect CX, grow your accounts, grow your customers by acting on and understanding every signal that's coming in. And this is the new evolution in what we're doing with Elevate today is not only reading all of these signals, 100% of these signals, but now giving you even more ability to act on them and to automate how you're acting on them as well. This is in a nutshell what we're going to be showing you today in the demo that Uthayya is going to show us in a little bit. What's the way forward with QA, right? You've got to be able to score at scale. You've got to have that 100%. Ideally, it'd be great if you had AI helping you explain every score and show folks how to take a score that wasn't ideal and move it into where they want to be as a support agent. And then it's also got to be something where maybe you're ready to have AI roll out in parts of your QA or maybe a few of your scorecards, or maybe only on voice, maybe only on chat. You want to have this ability to get AI into parts of your QA process as the team is using it and adopting it. So you're not maybe it's a budget concern, you don't want to pay for the whole thing at once. Maybe it's an adoption concern. You want to make sure that these things are proving value before you do a full rollout. That flexibility is huge, right? The optimal solution needs to have that. And then you've also got to be able to unite all of your models into one thing, right? Like one of the issues that we saw earlier in this presentation was auto QA and manual QA really having different ideas of what an ideal score is. And then you've got to have all of those enterprise level markers that really make for a tool that you can actually install into your instance. And that's what really Elevate has now is we've got the 100% QA that we've had for a long time, but now there's reasoning and there's suggestions and there's this infusion of everything that you would expect from AI and generative AI and summarization now into this rubric that aligns across all of your different sources. So I'm really excited about Uthayya showing some of this off today.
One of the newly launched features and pages that we have is our insights page, right? So one click in, I'm now in from our dashboard, which used to be our source of truth and our main place to stay abreast of everything that's happening, is now the insights page, where you can now come in and for the first time actually deep dive into what exactly my auto QA score means, right? Up until now, it was just a number. But does that number mean that there are particular trends? Is there a particular team that is doing better than the other? So, for example, what we also have is now the ability to view this in a pictorial way. It's not just numbers, it's not just a table where there's fatigue involved. We also want you to be able to quickly synthesize analytics numbers into actionable next steps, right? Those actionable next steps could be to the point of view of specific coaching and feedback, which is qualitative. So that's one angle, right? The other angle could be just highlighting key areas of improvement or key teams or engineers, right? So all of that is what this page shines and helps you to do, right? So one is you can now identify what is going on. You have your QA score, but what is your QA score for only every case that comes in with a high priority, right? What is the full focus on manual changes that are being done to an auto QA score, right? What is my CES score as well? In addition, what is completely new is up until now, you've always been able to view your QA score as a trend, right? But you've never been able to actually view your contribution to the QA score, which comes via way of skills and behaviors, also as a trend. For example, I know my QA score comes from XYZ skills, and those skills get their score from the behaviors within. But what if I just want to understand a particular behavior, which I already know is my biggest focus area, which I already know is the one particular behavior that most of my team is doing incorrectly on, right? So I know there's introduction, there's grammar. These are the ones where the team really has to focus. But how has that been going historically? So what I can come and do is just click into one particular skill, and from there, I can then see trends for those specific behaviors within that particular skill only. So this is completely new, and you can now track the performances for individual contribution factors for your score and not just your score in itself. So that's one. Two is, as I was saying, is the ability to view your key performance areas or your top performing teams, not only as a chart, but also as, sorry, not only as a table, but also as teams as well, where along with every team, we're also going to plot your best and worst performers for context, right? So that's the first half of it. That's the first half of I see a score, what next? So one is just identifying. Now the next step is actually going into the qualitative side, right? That Ryan actually talked about initially, that we have a score, but what is it? Or there was a slide that we showed it should you that said, I want to improve, but I don't know how to improve. So those are the steps that we want to actually go into next. So to continue, so what this is, if you've used Elevate, if you've used AutoQA, you know by now that how it works is AutoQA automatically takes in your entire case. It could be voice, it could be chat, it could be anything. We score it all and we output a grade for each behavior at a individual comment level, right? So each particular comment from an agent gets scored, you output a grade. Now what we've done is we've changed that. We've changed that to the extent that now all of these behaviors will soon be powered by Gen AI, right? Now that's a word we hear a lot. But apart from the actual technology change, what else does that mean? And why is it that, y'all should be happy about or y'all should take notice? It is apart from the actual grading in itself that you see here, what we also have is now a generated statement. Now, there are two parts of this. First is we have a generated statement that is a reason. So this is AI explaining why was this grade a positive or why was this grade a negative. Doubts with regards to especially some of the vaguer behaviors that we have, which are humility and empathy, in terms of why is it that my engineer was marked down? We see that they acknowledge the inconvenience. What is it that was not there, or what is it that had to be there? So now a clear explanation as to why AutoQA thinks the grade is what it is, what you have access to. And apart from that, and possibly even more important, is a feedback statement, right? So any and every time AutoQA grades one of your behaviors as negative, what it will also have, which is a second output, is a statement that tells the user, which could be the agent or it could be the auditor, what is it that the AI should have seen or should have read to have actually provided this positive. So this is a clear statement that tells you, your engineers, what is it that needed to have been done or said for this grade to have been positive. Now, at this stage, what we're doing is that this is granular. This tackles it at a behavioral point of view. Whenever a behavior is marked down, we give you specific actionable insight as to what can be done to convert that. What we do also have incoming in the coming quarters, which you all will obviously see, is we're also going to be tying this in and seaming this into the full case. So while you have feedback for every behavior now, soon we will also have a quality summary and a case level feedback that you will be able to access. So you've seen what a case would look like. So to come back, so here is what you have AutoQA right now, which is just the grading, right? But you will also be able to have generated statements on top, right? Now to continue, so for example, if this case was already auto QA'd, right? And then from here, I want to come in and make a change, right? And now let's say I want to start a complete manual QA from scratch. I could do that with just a few clicks, right? So let's say what Evan says here, I don't agree with. I want to say that this should have been part of empathy, and let's for now we link it to humility, and let's say here is where things were not the best, right? So apart from being able to actually link text to a particular behavior, as an auditor, not only can I go above and beyond with context and leave feedback, I can also at any point link a particular text that is available within the case and give that as additional context, or the ability for the engineer to really understand what they did well and what they didn't do really shines through from this point. So with regards to manual flows, and this could have been a voice case as well, right? This could have been a voice case where I've gone through the transcript. Within the transcript, what I'm actually seeing here is sentiments. I want to then come in and edit that particular transcript and do the exact same thing. All of this can exactly be done within a voice transcript as well. So for example, again, I'm just going to bring in another frame onto your screen. So this is a case where we have voice, and in the same way we are detecting signals. Within voice, you have your voice graph, which can be used for playback. So all of this is actually functionality which is already live. So if you use Elevate and you have a large voice component, you would already be seeing and using this particular UI. So you can use this to start a manual audit. You can then tag in text that has been said within a transcript and use that as additional layer, additional context. Because again, the aim here is to help you help your engineers improve, right? Whether they want to or not, the whole point is they should know how to improve. So it's those steps that, or it's those pointers, or it's those gaps that we want to help try and bridge, so that henceforth the ability, whether it's improving your CSAT or metrics, the aim for us is that QA on the whole should be simpler, faster, and easier, right? Now, from here, right? So what we've seen as of now, you come into Elevate. From the Elevate page, you have your dashboard, which is where you'd otherwise see and take stock of how your teams are going. From there, we have an all new AutoQA and Insights page where you'd go in, where you could see some other trends, understand the good and the bad of the score that you're seeing. And when you want to deep dive, you can actually go into a case, and in a case, you can actually understand why AutoQA gave the grades it did, and what is it that engineers could do to improve on the grades that they have received. Right now, from here, to continue the flow, right? Like after I've already come in, so let's say at this point I'm happy with this, I can go in, continue, and leave notes, which would be feedback that I would then send to, in this case, Evan and any other engineers that were also on this case, right? Now, not going to continue with this, right? But now, to jump into the more manual side of things, or to go into what else is it that AutoQA can actually, so that Elevate can actually help with. So, apart from the AutoQA bits, to go into more manual aspects, we have our assignments. So, our assignments is effectively how you would conduct and or do your or sort out your QA workloads in bulk, right? We understand that AutoQA is there for you to not be worried about what's going on and to always be able to track your QA health. But at the end of the day, whether it's because of compliance or whether it is internal policies, there are some number of manual checks that need to be done. So with Elevate, our aim is to make that extremely smooth, right? Whether it's a normal QA assignment or a calibration assignment, they're both much the same. But I'm just going to go into the calibration assignment for now. So how this works is, right, with a QA assignment, it is, let's say you have your auditor who looks after 10 engineers who are all within North America, right? That's the team that they are responsible for. So they can every week or every month, depending on the quotas that you have to meet for your audio for your audits, you can come in and create a QA assignment that would say, give me two cases each from all of my engineers in North America, and give them to auditor X, and they will be the one doing it, right? And I then immediately, okay, let me just go back so it's clearer. And then how it would work is, so that's what one of these QA assignments would look like, is that I would then get a list of tickets, which is then sent to my selected auditor or auditors, and they can then conduct it. They know when it is due by. We make sure that none of those will get missed, and they hit all the targets they need to. But a calibration assignment actually is, I'd say, even more important, right? Because how this works is, this is intended again to ensure that there is no conflicting feedback, coaching, or grading that ever goes down to your agents, right? So what this is, it's an internal QA assignment. None of the scores, none of the feedback from this actually ever goes out to an engineer. None of it goes onto the dashboards. So if we have to just make a test, so for now, let's just say Q for 26, sorry, that was 36, calibration. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating an assignment for my entire auditing team, where how it's going to work is that all of them are going to basically audit the exact same case. So what I want to do is now select a ticket or cases that will go out for this calibration. So who's it that I want to audit? So either I can, if say I know that there were a certain number of cases that were problematic that came in for a particular team, I can either do that. Or in this case, so let's say that I know that there were particularly two or three cases that I specifically want to get audited, I can just pick those two, right? And now I pick who is my auditing team that I would like for the audits to happen. So I can pick, let's say, Napol, Fiona, and Taylor, right? And once I'm happy, I can then just go ahead and click on create. And what this does is that Napol, Fiona, and Taylor, which is basically our auditing team, will all get an email saying that I have created an assignment for them, where all three of them have to audit the exact same case, right? And Once they're done, we have a UI in place for them to actually be able to get together, whether it's in the same room or on a call, click through and really understand the nuances of how each of them have audited. If there was a change, for example, they're auditing the same case, right? So technically, a Napole or a Fiona should, again, technically audit the case in exactly the same way. The score should be the same, whichever behaviors were messed up on should be the same. But the odds are that's never the case. There is always some sort of gap between your own auditing team. And why this is so important, why calibration assignments are so important, is because this gap needs to be identified and fixed immediately. Because if not, this gap is passed down to your agents, excuse me, and that's conflicting, right? So you're going to then see that conflicting behavior, those conflicting patterns repeat themselves continuously. And then if you're trying to identify, hey, why is this, why are they not improving? Because your auditor one is saying X to them, whereas auditor two is saying B to them or Y to them. And as a result, there is always some confusion. So that's the whole point of our calibration assignments and our assignments with the QA, just to help save time, workloads, and calibrations to really make sure that you're eliminating all sources of confusion. So now to move on from calibrations and to close the loop on what we're seeing with Elevate, right? The next thing is we have our tickets of interest, right? Now here the whole aim is that if there is a particular reason that a case is important, it could be that the reason is being defined by y'all. It could be that it is based on AutoQA, or it could be something that the defaults that we have. So this page is basically meant for you to track every case that could be of importance. It could be a case that has been open for a long time, right? It could be a case that has an extremely low score. It could be a case that meets one of our zero tolerance policy requirements that comes bundled with AutoQA, right? What this means is that we have a few particular models that run in place that are absolute no's. For example, profanity used in case. For example, PII being asked for or shared to another customer by one of your engineers, right? All things that you genuinely never expect to see, right? So we have checks for those that come with AutoQA. Along with AutoQA, another key item which you will see in Elevate a lot, and in the next coming release and quarters, you will actually see a lot of focus on is CES. Now, what is CES? CES is our customer effort score. Like AutoQA, this is something that we have a model that runs in the background that looks at a plethora of factors and comes up with a score that aims to tell you that maybe your case was resolved correctly, but was it resolved in a way that required the customer to really expend more energy? Was it simple for them to reach the endpoint that they wanted to or not? So it's fundamentally different from a sheer QA or a sheer CSAT that just goes into, was the job done? Right? Was the resolution provided correct? Right? CES aims to go into the correct problem was solved, sure, but was it done as efficiently as we could have? So now things that you will see within actually the next release and the coming quarters are much like I just showed you the auto QA insights page where we have a contribution analysis and a breakdown. We're going to have a lot of that coming for CES as well. Right. So for now, what you can see is basically a board that tracks every case that has a low CES score. So again, if you were to go into this, you can go into the case, understand what happened with the case. Soon you will also be able to, from this page, go into a low CES board in particular, identify which factors actually contributed to it being a low CES, as opposed to what contributes to a case that has a good score as well. So most of these come default or come bundled with AutoQA. All of these are ones that you have control over and can define as to what constitutes a low score. The last one that I would like to talk about, it's blank here because this is one of our environments, so there's not really much that's happened. But this is basically a board for your auditors. And this one's rather important or could be rather useful because it also works with the core application in sync. What I mean is that the mark for review board is for any case that you or your team manually marks or chooses to send to QA, right? So let's say your case just got escalated, right? Your support manager looks at the case, they're in the escalations board viewpoint in the core application, they see things they don't like. While it might get solved in the interim, you might deal with the escalation, the case might get closed. There is still value in QA having a look at it and QA being able to then coach and identify as to what should have been done so that we can avoid these kind of escalations in the future. So what that would be is that one click, the case gets marked for review, comes into this board. And again, to save time, what we also have is the ability for you to quickly create a QA an assignment for every single, for over every case that was in your mark for review board. So once, let's say you have 20 cases that are in mark for review, you don't have to go to them individually and unmonitor them. You can just one click pull all of them in. We create an assignment that will have every case for you, and your auditing team can then look at them one by one. Also important to note at this stage is that the mark for review is not only for your auditing team. If an engineer sees a case, let's say AutoQA has scored it, they don't really like the score AutoQA gave them, or that they know because they're the ones responding on the fly, right? That they know that something's not wrong and they would like for QA to look at this, they can request for a review as well, which would also result in the case showing up within the marked for review board. So again, so now we've looked at it from the point of view of manual QA, what are the workflows we have around them, and then coming back to observability, right? To being able to track and being able to stay on top of the situation at hand. Right. Now, coming back is the dashboard, right? So this is the first page we have. I'm sure you guys have actually seen this page the most, but one of the key workflows that we have here, which ties in everything, which is your QA scores, your CES scores, is the ability to actually, from this page, deep dive and understand what's going wrong within a case, right? So, for example, if I'm here, yes, I can go into my insights page at any point and see, okay, how's the team doing? Which folks are doing better than the others? But if I want to go granular and then say, okay, you know what? I want to understand which are the behaviors that are doing well. So I come in, say auto QA because I want to just understand it from an auto QA lens, right? I'm immediately shown based on the scorecard at hand which particular skills or behaviors are doing well. Again, also a viewpoint I can get in on the insights page, right? But from here, what I can also do is directly see from the virtual org that has been selected for these skills or behaviors, which are the virtual teams within my selected org that are also doing well, or which are the agents within my virtual team, and how do they fare for the same particular skills or behaviors. So let's actually move to behaviors because that's the more granular, that's what we're actually trying to look for, right? So let's just say greetings, which is basically whether or not your customers were greeted by the engineer when they first came in, just hello, and you have now reached XYZ a support, a line like that, right? So I can see that Brandon is slightly worse off than Dylan here. And I can either choose to deep dive and see what Brandon is saying, or I can actually just do it for both. So one click takes me to basically the search page, right? Where how it will work is from my dashboard, I'm being rerouted to the search page. And the search page has a completely new look, which is what we like to call card view, right? Which basically gives you a snapshot of every case that was linked to Brandon and was linked to the behavior with the grade that we are intending on, which in our case is greetings negative, right? So I immediately have a look of every case that Brandon worked on that has greetings negative. Excuse me. Additionally, so that it's not multiple clicks, again, because we want you to save time, you can also come in, click here, and we immediately bring you every comment in the case that had greetings negative. So you don't even have to go into the case at this point. However, from here, if you see again something you don't like or something that you want to double click on, you can always choose to go into the case as well. And like we've already shown you, from there, you can see whether AutoQA, with the new releases, whether there was whether there was coaching feedback provided by AutoQA, whether there was a particular reason mentioned to us by AutoQA as to why the grade was what it is. But the whole aim, again, to come back is with Elevate, right? With AutoQA, you now have the ability to A, stay high level, quickly understand and take stock of who's doing well, what's doing well. B, to then, apart from the who and the why, apart from the who's, to then go into the why with AutoQA, right? Understand from the why is also a what can be done to improve. And if you're not from the lens of coaching, but you just want to understand what's going on, the ability to immediately deep dive and really identify the crux of the problem is just a few clicks, right? So that's the auto aspect. And then from there, when you have a team that really wants to get hands on, you have the manual QA workflows as well that really helps or really makes Elevate shine. And if that comes in with the goodness of auto, you can really make your manual QA workflows extremely powerful. Just one last thing that I slipped when I was talking about the assignments, and why when you have everything that it really becomes powerful is mainly because of our filters, right? So if I then go into the next section, right? So once we choose how we or who we want to audit, it could be a particular case or a particular team, right? And that say we want to audit every case that has come in the last 6 months, and we want two per engineer. How it really works, and what I was just going in about, where even the manual QA workflows really shine when you have the goodness of CES, when you have the goodness of auto QA, and the signals detected in core, is mainly because of this. That right now in Elevate, for your manual QA workflows, right, apart from just saying that I want for my EMEA team, I want to get 2 tickets per engineer, send them to my auditor, Sarah, right? What I also want to then say is, you know what, I only want something that had an escalation a request. Let's add to that, I only want something that came in with heavy frustration, right? We can also add or to that, I want any case that had a CES score of 30 or below, right? Using all of this, the whole aim is that if your team is going to get hands-on, if they're really going to actually spend time, we want to make sure that they spend time only on the good stuff, only on the cases that they should spend their time on. So this is the case that has the voice file as well. So there we go. You can see that the voice transcript has just loaded. And here we also have a chat transcript as well. One of the additional things here that you can see is that this case was actually in a foreign language as well. So that's what the original looks like. So this was a Japanese case, right? If I were to go back to the original, the English text. So what you see here is, right, so just as asked, the same case has multiple sources of truth, where we've imported the voice call and the transcript from another system of record. The normal cases, the normal comments came in from elsewhere. So it doesn't matter if you store your voice in one particular place and your cases are elsewhere, as long as there is a link or an integration that you all have, it makes it simple for us. We can import it all, we link it to the same case, and all of it is shown here. The advantages of that are manifold, right? The biggest one is obviously that from the point of view of context for the same case, for an agent or for an auditor, for them to assess quality, they need to be able to understand everything that's happened within the case. So having the voice file here really helps with that, where I'm just going to click, right? You can
Hi, thank
play
you
it
for
back.
reaching support. Am I speaking with Cat?
I'm just going to pause that, right? So you can absolutely play back at any point within the voice file. You can come in and say, you know what, I also feel that there were some signals that were possibly that were missing. You can choose to add those in. You can choose to basically remove some. You can edit. Yes, A, we can have voice, chat, all of that in one case. B is from voice, your ability to play back, your ability to really understand the quality of a voice call is extremely high in Elevate. One thing I don't think I actually talked about, thank you for bringing this, Ryan, was that we also have some specific acoustic-based QA Monday models that are tonality and hold that are only for voice calls. So the tonality looks at whether or not the probably proper tone was used and the right way of being able to communicate. And hold, as the name says, is proper usage of hold and hold procedure. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you all.
This slide I have here really recaps a lot of what these updates are giving you and what we call this, right? 100% explainable QA built for enterprise support. And I think that's a really key distinction is that these AI models are absorbing the language of enterprise level interactions, right? That's a key part of how that AI works and really delivers a lot of value. And the impact that we're seeing across teams is across these four buckets. So these explainable scores across every interaction are really helping teams actually improve from their QA scores. Folks are able to understand behavior level problems and improve, right? So they're getting sentiment signals, they're getting effort signals. That's what CES is, it's customer effort score. And they're getting these things in real time. And I think something that's really exciting is that these agents are getting a single clear view of everything that they're dealing with, right? Across these different channels, voice, chat, email. And then your QA team, now it can scale, right? Because now they're able to really get into one place, look at all the cases, and this team just gets an incredible amount of efficiency. Let me talk about some higher level ROI. You bring someone in, it takes them a couple months to train them. Stuff like this, you can train that person in half the amount of time, right? So you're getting them up to speed faster, you're getting them productive faster. On the back end, your teams aren't burning out as fast. You're keeping folks longer in the same position. So you're bringing someone in, getting them onboarded faster. You're keeping them longer in that position, doing more rewarding work, getting the feedback they need, improving in their role, giving the company more value. But also from the QA point of view, the manager point of view, that's a team that's getting a much better workflow. Everything's centralized into one place, and they're really able to handle a lot more cases, get a lot more done as well. So there's really efficiency plays across the board with what you guys are building. Let me get to this next area. So while Uthayya is looking for a case, I want to highlight something that CyberArk is doing. They're a customer of ours that's using Elevate now, and they're seeing great results across their support, right? This is a reflection of not only their use of Elevate, but also their use of the core platform as well. And a video I want to drop in the chat here, if I just throw that in the chat right now for folks, is this video that we have up on YouTube where about a minute in, Paul Kozlov from CyberArk is talking about how they've scaled their quality assurance program, and really great short video to check out. The whole video is only 3.5 minutes, and this little section comes at about 56 seconds in. I invite you to check out that video and then check out everything else that's going on with our YouTube channel. There's a lot of great sessions. You can see here Uthayya himself going over QA and where we were at back in September, in addition to many other really cool product features and enhancements that we can show you.